Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright, hello friends and welcome to my Mega MAFIA Romance Recs, or my Oddly Specific Romance Recs Mega Edition. I have 40 different recs to give you today, and this is in conjunction with a MAFIA Romance Readathon. But even if you don't want to participate in the readathon, I'm about to go over 8 different oddly specific tropes for MAFIA and give you 5 recs for each one. So I encourage you, even if you aren't participating in the readathon in May, you will still want to stick around because I have so many great recs for you today. And yeah, it's going to be so great. But in case you are here for the readathon, hi, I'm so happy to have you here. This is going to be for 8 of the 10 oddly specific recs. The reason why it's only for 8 of them is because just last week I did an assassin rec video that was mostly MAFIA. And then I have done quite a few single parent rec videos, and one of them I think was dark romance with single parents, and those are pretty much all MAFIA, so I will tag those. And then as for the bingo board, because those ones are books that I pretty regularly recommend those ones, I didn't feel the need to make individual videos for those. But I'm sure some of the other hosts will be doing recs for those ones as well. I just wanted to, find a way to get recs for a good amount of these. And also, a lot of these oddly specific recs, if I remember which of the 1-point prompts they hit, I will also tell you that as we go through this. So basically, this is kind of your one-stop shop to build your TBR if you're looking to hit a lot of these, right? So I love making this video. It's one of my favorite ones to make every year, to just throw all this MAFIA at you. And for the most part, I tried not to double up any, though I will admit a few of them I did, just because there were 4 more niche ones on here and it was really hard to fill out a full 5 of them. So some of them do overlap, which again, that's great, because if you read that one, you know it's going to hit both. And some of them even will hit multiple ones too. So anyway, I'm going to start going through these. Like I said, I have 8 of the prompts. The ones I'm going to be going over are organized crime of any kind, woman on the run, fairytale retelling, published before 2020, less than 1,000 ratings on Goodreads, royalty in the title, the LGBTQAI plus one, and disability or neurodivergent one. Now, a few of these that I have separate videos for, I do have a woman on the run video already. I also have multiple fairytale retelling videos, but they didn't focus on MAFIA, so they actually have a lot more historicals and stuff in them. And then, of course, I have many MM and queer romance rec videos, and a lot of MAFIAs in those. And then I have made 3 different disability or neurodivergent videos as well. So those are even more, that if you go to my dark romance playlist or my romance recommendation playlist, you will find oodles of recs there too. I've made, what am I at this point? I think over 700 rec videos. So a lot of these fit in there. But, because the MAFIA Romance Readathon is coming up, I have to do a mega rec video, just because it's so much fun. Whoopsie daisy. I was just leaning on my keyboard and messed up my page. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that that is what you can expect in this one. And all the books that I recommend, I'll have links to them down below, so you can go right to them, add them to your TBR, add them to your Kindle list, because most of these will be on there. And let's get started, okay, without further ado. So the first one I'm going to go over is, and I do have my computer as well as a bunch of recs here, so don't mind me, is organized crime of any kind. So like I said, this prompt is for basically anything outside of the 4 major family groups that are on the bingo board, right? Like we have Bratva, Irish, Italian, and Cosa Nostra. Those are the most common ones. Those are worth 1 point, right? So organized crime of any kind is what I'm also including in this is ones that don't list a specific mafia, as well as, they are maybe like more gang or a syndicate or criminal organization that, again, isn't tied to one of those 4 main ones, okay? So I have 5 recommendations for this. The first one is, and I forgot this was Turkish. I thought this was a different one, but I have Stolen by a Sinner. And I'll tell you, this one also doubles up with Fairytale Retelling because it has a bit of a Cinderella bent to it, okay? It even says in the description of this one, Cinderella said to be kind, have courage, and always believe in a little magic, and she's wrong. Like, that's literally the first line of it. So this is one that people have used before as a fairy tale reimagined type thing. And you'll see when we get there, the fairy tale part, it's a myth, it's fairy tale, it's retelling of any kind of like classic tale, as it were. So it's very loose with that. But Stolen by a Sinner is the Turkish mafia, actually. And this one, it's one of my favorites in this series. You're going to see a lot of Michelle Hurd in this video. I'm just telling you, she has such a varied amount of what she's written, and it works so well with my oddly specific recs. So Neva Altai and Michelle Hurd will show up multiple times. I'm just warning you now. Be prepared. Lots of people who've competed is the wrong word, who participated in this readathon over the years have definitely been introduced to these two. But this one is about a girl who has been in indentured servitude / she was human trafficked since she was young. And what happens is that Gabriel Demir, the head of the Turkish mafia, attacks her boss, and she actually gets shot in the crossfire. And so, and I believe her boss is a part of the Polish mafia too. So this is double wise, like these different mafias and everything. And so she ends up getting taken to his home as basically a prisoner. And once she is healing, she kind of explains her situation, and she learns that, or Gabriel learns that she was a prisoner there. And so then he starts to kind of fall for her. And he ends up going on a journey to actually help her, or not a journey, he ends up promising to help her find out what happened to her mother, because she'd been separated from her mother years ago. So yeah, I really like this one. I actually read an arc of this one way back in the day, which is kind of cool. And this was a 6-star read for me when I read it. So I was a big fan of this one back then. And yes, it includes Turkish mafia as the main one. Okay, another from Michelle Hurd, because she does some really varied ones. She has these in multiple different series of hers. They're kind of like syndicates or group of mafia dons from different families that are teamed up in an alliance. So that's why she works really well for the like mafia of any kind type of thing. So the other one from her I like to share is the High Priestess. And this one is actually the Greek mafia. So it actually has the heroine of this one. Her family gets attacked by their enemies, and she must call on the like syndicate of people to help her family. And then she actually has to like assert her dominance as the head of the Greek mafia to kind of help bring everything back into control. And the hero in this one gets kind of assigned as like her bodyguard while she's going through that process. So this actually has a female Dawn to it as well, which that's a prompt I've had in the past, and we actually cut it out because there's so few female like bosses and stuff. So that's not a prompt this year, but it does hit for Greek, and it hits for what else does this one hit for, actually? I can't think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure it hits other ones as well. Okay, then we have Silent Lies. Here is our Neva. Now, I will say this too. Most all of the Neva Altai, as I recommend them, you can read them out of order. That's just fine. And yeah, that is how I like recommend them to people, because for the most part, it doesn't matter the order you're reading them in, except for books 9 and 10. They're pretty much the only ones that have to be read in order in this series, because the events happen in order in those books. But this one is the Serbian Mafia, and this one is Drago and Sienna. And Drago, too, actually works as a disability because he is actually partially deaf, and there is, he has a specific disease that I didn't write down for this, but part of it is that his hearing got blown out, and so there is something to do with that. So yeah, this one is an arranged marriage. It's an age gap. Its hero is the boss. It's Serbian mafia. So this one will definitely tick off quite a few. Also, you know, if you're this one works good. I forgot this. If you're reading through this author, you know, it's next in a series if you haven't read this one yet. So there is those for that one anyway. Okay, next up we have Sweetest Sin by Nikki Ash. Now, this one, it's very interesting because if you look on Goodreads, this one gets labeled as a mafia romance. And I'm just going to read this author's note because it always makes me chuckle a little bit, but then I'm going to say how it works in this readathon. From the author, she said, Sweetest Sin is not a mafia romance. I've never promoted it that way, and my graphics intentionally avoid the label. When Amazon shifted a category after reader reviews, I contacted them to fix it. The book is a dark romance because of its content, since dark romance can mean different things. But it's not mafia romance, she says. However, it is an organized crime group when you read it. So it's an unnamed organized crime, which exactly fits with this prompt. That is organized crime of any kind. When you read it, you'll know what I mean. And that is completely fine if the author doesn't want it labeled as mafia romance. That is her right. And again, she doesn't list any particular one. But the way that it's run like organized crime. So yeah, I think that can be very interesting how things get laid off, and the hero does, I think, become kind of the boss of it as well. So yeah, I laughed a little bit because the author doesn't want it listed as that, but to me, it definitely felt that way. So we listed it that way. And then Skeletons of Society by Marie Maravilla. And this one is Cartel. This one is also a female capo. So she's not the boss of it, but she was a capo. So that's cool. And we have Gunner, who is a part of an MC. But I'll tell you, he's actually an undercover officer who has infiltrated this MC. But this MC that he is working for gets kind of teams up with this cartel because they're supposed to be working together. So yeah, I really like this one. I really like their relationship with each other. And this was one that worked well for, in a previous year, I also had a prompt that was for someone who was undercover or was spying or whatever. So I really like that trope a lot. But yes, this one works for that. She also may very well be a new to you author too. She actually has two different, pen names, and one of them she writes hockey romance, which I love. So yes, this one is also our heroine is Latina as well. So this one was also for an interracial couple, when that used to be a prompt that I had as well. So yeah, there are those. Next up, we have Woman on the Run. All right. So Woman on the Run, I have another Neva Altai. I have Hidden Truths. This one is book 3. And this one actually has the Bratva and the cartel, but she's escaping from the cartel. Her father's group gets overtaken by another guy in the cartel, and he wants to force her to marry him to kind of solidify his power. And her grandmother actually sneaks her out of the compound and puts her on a shipment of, I think it's either weapons or drugs or something. And Sergei and his people are the ones who capture the truck, and he ends up taking her home with him because he doesn't want to give her up. So yeah, it's kind of a captor-captive as well, though if you've read any captor-captive stuff from Neva, you'll know he's one of the softest captors that you've seen for sure. But I love it, and I think this is the one who, he has PTSD as well, so this would work for disability. I mean, all of her books in the Perfectly Imperfect series have some type of either mental health or physical thing. You know, they're going to come back up in other prompts we have. But yeah, this one has Cartel, Bratva, Woman on the Run, Captor, Captive. This one's a really great one for hitting lots of prompts as well. Then I want to show Sinful King by Natalie Kane. This was the first book in the Kings of Vegas series by Natalie Kane. Obviously, also has king in the title, so royalty in the title for this one. But this one involves Eloise, who is from the Italian Mafia. Her father is the head of that, and he's trying to force her to marry someone. So she flees to Vegas, and what's nice about this heroine, well, I mean, there's a lot. She had actually been kind of preparing for this because she knew it was a possibility. She isn't a stupid girl. And she had kind of been preparing to go on the run for it, including, I love this about her, learning different skills so that she would be able to get a job. Because that's one thing that's always crazy to me is these like pampered, protected, or I mean locked down princesses who are then, you know, just out there trying to get work or whatever. Our heroine, her father, I'm just going to say this because I love it. Her father had actually let her go to school a bit, which I know that sounds so weird, but they're very possessive guys. And so she had actually taken some classes in different skills. Like while she was in college, she knew she probably wouldn't be able to get a degree. So she took all these different electives and like different things. And so she's learned how to like mix drinks, I think she's learned how to cook a little bit. I can't remember all the things she took classes in, but she learned enough to then actually apply for some jobs. So she goes on the run and she applies for some jobs in Vegas, and she gets hired as a bartender at Rapture, which actually turns out to be a BDSM club. And then we have Rome, who is one, you know, he owns this club and he has this group of chosen brothers who are kind of running everything. And when her father sends men after her and it gets revealed to Rome who she is, he, you know, promises to protect her. And even though some of his brothers, at least one, are very suspicious of her showing up there, because it just so happens to be one of their enemies' children who showed up there, fair enough, helpful to be suspicious, won't lie. But he can't help it. He's fallen for her for sure. So, yes, this one will work for Italian Mafia, as well as I don't think the guys are in a specific mafia. So this one also could work for organized crime of any kind. But remember, this one you don't double up this point with one of the other ones. Is that this one you don't double up? Yeah, this one is not to be doubled up with those ones. Did I say that about this one? I don't want to just make up stuff. I think the point is once you've used the other ones. Oh, yeah. It's just that you can't use it for one of the other ones. It's supposed to be a separate one. So, but anyway, whatever. I answered this in the announcement video and now I'm confusing myself, but whatever I've told everyone is the answer. This one you're not supposed to double it up as one of the other ones. But it would count for the fact that they're in a different mafia. That's what I was trying to say, is I don't think the guys are in a specific named one. So if you read this, it would work for Italian Mafia for the girl and organized crime of any kind for the hero. That's what I was trying to say. Sorry if I'm confusing people. I apologize. I know how I feel, and then I sit down to talk and I get all messed up. Okay, then we have Brutal Vows by Darcy McQueen. And this one is one I actually read a few Mafia readathons ago, and I keep wanting to continue this series, and I haven't. But I feel like this will be a new to you author for most people. Most people have not read this one. And this one is actually about, well, of course, a woman on the run. And the hero actually had kind of went on the run too, which I love. So this is Cassidy and Mick. But they're actually going under some false names, so I'll say that. But she goes on the run because she's supposed to be married to a monster. And one of the things I loved about this is it isn't just that she's getting married off to a monster, okay? Because she always knew that was going to be her fate. Her one joy in life is her horse. She loves her horse, and it's the only freedom that she has. She's literally willing to do anything her parents ask of her. But when she overhears the fact that I think when she's away on her honeymoon, I think her family or, they're going to get rid of her horse while she's gone so that she doesn't have that anymore. And literally the thing that snaps her is that they're going to euthanize her beautiful horse, which I would lose my shit as well. They're going to euthanize her beautiful horse to have control over her. And there's no reason to do it. She isn't planning to run away. She isn't planning any of that stuff. She's willing to do whatever they want, but they threaten her beautiful horse. And she says no to it. Like, she's like, we're done here. We're done. And so she goes on the run, but she has to take her horse with her. So that puts her in, some limited options, as it were. And she ends up where our hero is because he owns like a ranch. And she's needing to like board her horse there. I believe that's the setup of this one. It's been a little hot minute. But I just thought that was, girl, I would absolutely do the same. Because what do you mean that you're going to kill off her horse for control when she isn't trying to do anything else but wants to have this horse in her life? Like, that is just fucking sick, okay? It is sick, and I hate it with everything I have. Absolutely do. Okay, then we have this one's fun, because this one's actually a cowboy mafia. And this is Slay by Abby Glines. And this is actually book 1 in a duet. And it's a pretty quick read, but this one involves Rumor. And she was in an abusive relationship, and she goes on the run, and she ends up hooking up with King. And I can't remember fully if he was sent to like bring her back or how this one worked out. Let me see here. It's been a long time since I read this one. I wanted to include one of the cowboy mafia ones in here though, so. Yes. Okay. I think, if I'm remembering based on my review for this, King's family takes out her abuser. And when her abuser gets taken out, she makes a run for it, but she has nowhere to go. And I think she's still being like tracked by them kind of, because whether they thought there was stuff that she knew or what was going on. And so they're watching her and following her. And when they see the difficult way that she's in, they welcome her into their family, give her a place to stay. And it isn't until she figures it all out that she realizes she literally went into the arms of this family who's responsible for the death of her abuser, which again, she didn't have any love for the abuser, but it's like, did I get out of that situation just to fall into something much worse, right? So anyway, yes, this is a mafia romance. There are cowboys, there's a ranch, so it definitely can scratch that itch. So yeah, I never continued with this whole series. Let me see. I think she wrote a lot of books in this series. Ooh, that's right. And book 2 in the series, I'm glad I pulled this up. Book 2 in the series is actually called Slay King. So first is Slay and second is Slay King. So, if you end up wanting to take on this duet, you not only, if Abby Glines is new to you, you'd have a new to you author, you'd have Woman on the Run, you'd have Mafia of any kind, because I don't think they have a particular family either. You'd also then, if you continue on to the next one, you'd have one with royalty in the title, next in a series. So there's some good options in there. I think there's audiobooks for these ones as well. So great potential with this duet anyway. Yeah, super cool. Okay, let's see, what else? Okay, and then the last one I had for Woman on the Run was Dark Russian Angel by Odette Stone. Now, I haven't read this one in a long time either, but I believe for this one, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't pull that one up on my Goodreads here, unfortunately, is she witnesses a crime and she's needs to be put into protection before she can like testify for it. And some of the hero in this one ends up offering his protection to her because he doesn't think that the authorities are going to be able to keep her safe enough for this. So it's kind of like a woman in hiding, but she's on the run because she saw something she shouldn't. Okay. All right. I got to keep it moving here. We have so many recs to get through still. Okay. Next up is the Fairytale Retelling. I forgot how difficult this one was, so I'm glad I made it an oddly specific rec. Because you know, there are quite a few that are Beauty and the Beast, but I was trying to find some from other, from other fairy tale options. So I pulled together 5 of them. I know there are a ton of Beauty and the Beast ones out there, but there are also ones that a lot of people have already read, you know, like Stolen Air. Tons of people have read that one. And so I wanted to find some other options here. So the first one to mention is The Last Boss's Daughter by Sam Mariano. And this one is a Snow White reimagined. And it has, you know, the classic setup of The Last Boss's Daughter, where the heroine is the daughter of the last boss and a hitman is sent to take her out. So this one will also work for Assassin. I believe this one is Italian Mafia. And this does also have a tiny connection to, I think this one connects with both her, there's a duet that she has, the Irreparable duet. But I know this connects with the Morelli series daughter. Then there is, of course, where did I put you? This one, it took me a minute to think, but His Juliet by Amelia Rossi is a reimagining of Romeo and Juliet. So like I said, I know this is fairytale retelling, but it isn't just strictly like Snow White, Cinderella, Little Mermaid, like those. It's a reimagining of like classic tales and things like that. That's a very loose interpretation for this because I want us to have some, you know, Hades and Persephone, ones like that. Which Hades and Persephone can also be a Beauty and the Beast, but you know. So His Juliet, they don't know that they're from rival families. This one, we also have a heroine who has she has agoraphobia and some other issues as well. So this one also could count for disability or neurodivergence if you wanted to. I believe this one is also, Italian Mafia is this series. But yeah, this one is Romeo and Juliet are literally the character names. And he hides out in her bookshop after he's committed a crime. And he ends up making her stay there with him all night. And by the time that he leaves, he's hooked on her. So yeah, this one also involves a little bit of captor-captive in it. And yeah, I don't want to say too much more than that, but basically all the books in this series I'm going to mention in this video as well, because she just hits so many of my oddly specific recs. But His Juliet works for a fairytale retelling. Then we have Fear Me, Love Me by Lilith Vincent. This one I love mentioning because it is Labyrinth reimagined. So again, I'm being very liberal with these. I mean, Labyrinth I don't even think is a tale. It's a movie. But I love including it in here. And this one also counts as a indistinct mafia as well, or organized crime of any kind, because I don't believe that Tyrant Mercer is the name of the guy in here. And I don't think his mafia family is like named. So this one should work for organized crime of any kind. Definitely also has captor-captive. This one is absolutely wild. And it is super kinky, super dark. Like this one is very, very dark. Make no mistake about it. But this one involves, this girl's family owes him money and Tyrant takes the little boy as payment to force the family to pay. And our heroine ends up going to offer him a deal and he tells her if she can make it out of his labyrinth literally has like a maze built in his backyard that is like a killing field. If she can make it out, he will release her little brother and everything. But there's a twist to this story because it's told actually in 2 different timelines. I don't want to spoil anything. And the way these two fall for each other is twisted shit, okay? I'm not going to pretend otherwise. This one has so many kinks. It has somnophilia, it has blood play, it has a bit of like dubcon in it. But it is so hot and I just can't get over it. I mean, I read this one in, man, when did I read this? Was it did I read it the year it came out? When did I read this? I couldn't have read it in December of that. I hate when I did. I read it in December of 2023. Because I was just addicted to this thing. Oh yeah, it also had cock warming, and breeding kink. Like, it has so much in it. This book is fucked. But yeah, it's Labyrinth reimagined. Okay, then there is also another Neva Altai, Beautiful Beast, actually. So this is one I don't mention too often because it didn't go over super well. Well, I mean, I hate that we say that. I mean, this has 33,000 ratings, but part of that is just Neva is so well loved by everyone. But this one came out in 2024, and it was the first in her spin-off series. And she just hasn't been working in this series again. I'm hoping she's going to go back to it now that the final book in the Perfectly Imperfect series will be out, because I do want this second gen series from her. I really do. I just don't think Beautiful Beast was like the very best that she could do, but I still loved it. And I stand by, really kind of the reason is it isn't perfect is that the stakes are a bit cut off at the knees when you have second gen series. I've said this about Cora Riley's series. I've said this about, a lot of other series. Sorry, I can't think of anything when I'm like talking right now, because there's only so much you can do to beloved characters we already care about. And in MAFIA, a lot of the drama comes from deaths of parents and things like that, right? And when you have to respect the HEAs of previous stories you've written, it can get in your way. And that's a bit of Beautiful Beast, what happens here. However, it still hits for a Beauty and the Beast reimagined. And I really love this one is, I believe it's Nina and Roman's daughter, and she's actually a hacker. And Raphael is a scarred, grumpy crime boss, and he sends his men to take care of the hacker who's been messing with his business. But he ends up finding, when he goes down to his torture room to see who's been messing everything, he finds this woman. So he comes up with a plan to keep her and not have to kill her, which involves making her fix what she broke, with her hacking skills. So yeah, it was a good one, but a little bit of the stakes, what they might be. But you could also say most of the books in Neva's books make you feel warm and fuzzy in a lot of aspects too. So anyway, all right. And then the final one I'm recommending, I actually haven't read yet. Okay. So I want to be clear about that, but I was really intrigued because again, I was trying to find different fairy tales for each one of these and not just do a bunch of Beauty and the Beast or whatever. And this one that kept coming up, I didn't actually realize that it was MAFIA related is part of the thing. But it's one of the Black Rose auction books. And this one is from Katie Robert, who I used to love her MAFIA. And in fact, more of her MAFIA will show up in this video. But book 1 in the Black Rose auction involves a MAFIA daughter, a mob princess. And it's a Little Red Riding Hood reimagined. And she offers herself, I think, in the Rose auction, which has to do with, I think, selling virginity is what's a part of that one or whatever. So it's that kind of situation. But yeah, MAFIA romance, secret identity. And I think she's selling her virginity is what she's doing. But yeah, her name is Ruby, and this one is a Red Riding Hood retelling. So again, haven't read this one yet myself. I tried to only include ones I'd read, but I wanted to put this one out there because it seems so unique to me. So, I love when I find something like that. Okay, onward to one of my favorites to include, which is published before 2020, right? So a lot of people who are MAFIA stans will, have read a lot of these, but I love including it because if there's anyone who's new to MAFIA and has only been reading what's out currently, it's fun to kind of turn our eyes back to some of the foundational reads of MAFIA for us. And one that I had totally forgot about, but I now have, it's going to be on 2 of these prompts here, is Call the Coroner by Avril Ashton. And I love this book. I can't believe I forgot about it. But I guess in my head, I don't think of it as MAFIA. But it is. I think it is the cartel that this one has to do with. But I never remember to think of it. So Call the Coroner is actually a dark romance. There's also an assassin. Obviously it'll work for LGBTQAI. And captive. Like this one works for a ton, actually. Probably a new to you author if you've never heard of this. And is so good. I love it. Very dark enemies to lover situation. So in this one, actually, let me just read you the little blurb for this because let me just do it. It's great. A clash of wills between predators. He's been living underground for a long time, but the only thing guaranteed to bring Daniel Nieto back to the surface is the identity of his wife's killer. With the whisper of one name, he puts it all on the line for vengeance. He's got plans for Stavros Constantinou. I can't say that name. The title of the monster fits too well for Stavros to want to be anything other than what he is. Time spent in Daniel Nieto's dungeon, chained and tortured, will never change that. Starved for food, sunlight, and freedom, he waits for an opening to turn the tables on the only man who's ever come close enough to scare him. Somewhere between the slide of a knife against skin, the drip of blood on cold concrete, things change. Grief and hatred collide with lust and obsession, and this time Daniel and Stavros are on the same side. This time they're fighting a losing battle against a connection forged by much more than a love of violence and bloodshed. In a war this bloodied, what do you do when the bodies start hitting the floor? So, just to kind of say the facts instead of just the drama about this one, is that, yes, Stavros killed Daniel's wife, but he was paid to do it. He's a paid hitman, okay? So it works for assassin. It's great. He didn't do it out of any resentment, right? He's a paid gun, a paid knife, whatever you want to say it. And they actually had, I believe, like an altercation during that hit too. And it was a very it was an awful situation. But what really Daniel needs to find out is who hired Stavros, right? Because it isn't Stavros who had a vendetta against him. That doesn't mean Daniel isn't still angry at him and want him to suffer. But he isn't the one who, put out the hit. He just completed it, right? So it's a very interesting thing. And yeah, this becomes a captive. It is very dark and gory. There's torture. But this romance between the two of them, I love it. And there actually is a follow-up. Like, this is called the Staniel series. And there's a second one called Dig Your Grave that is a follow-up to it. So yeah, I loved both of them. So I couldn't believe I forgot about this one. But yeah, this came out all the way back in, 2017. So it definitely fits in. And I've read a couple other by Avril Ashton too. So not quite horror, but definitely is gory, definitely is heavier. But so good. And it's like a forgotten treasure in my opinion. In a world where people are loving Rena Kent. Think of it as like a Rena Kent situation, but more controlled. It's like if Rena Kent met a Pam Godwin situation, right? But Avril Ashton predates like both of the stories from them, So highly recommend that one. Okay, then I'll set this down because I own all of these ones here. We have, of course, Accidental Witness by Sam Mariano. This is the first book in the Morelli family. This one is Italian Mafia. This came out in 2017. And this one kicks off the messy, delicious Morelli family saga. This one is actually about Vince and Mia, and they're actually in high school in the beginning of this series, which is just crazy to me that it starts off there. But this is, as it says, Mia sees something she shouldn't see in Accidental Witness, and it gets her involved with the mafia in a way that she never wants to be. But because Vince is very interested in her, he doesn't want to just kill her like he probably should, like he would be ordered to. Sorry, it's shiny, so it doesn't like my lights here. And Mia, again and again, honestly, has to prove that she's not going to share what she knows. And she'll be put to the test by the boss of Vince's family, who's actually his, is it his uncle or his cousin? Now I can't remember how Matteo is related to him, but you'll meet Matteo Morelli in this one, and it is something you will never be able to unexperience, let's just say. One of my favorite mafia fuckers of all time. Okay, then we have The Marriage Contract by Katie Robert. I said she'd show up again. This was actually a traditionally published. This came out, I think this was with, it was with Hachette, and this came out in 2015. And this is the start of the series. Now, these were recently re-released with, who did these? Did Bloom do these? I can't remember. So this may have a new title in some places, and I didn't grab it, but this has been re-released and has a new title. But if you type in The O'Malleys by Katie Robert, you'll get it. And yeah, this one is a rival families. I believe it's the Irish and Italian, or they might be two Irish families, actually. I don't know. But yeah, this is Callie and Teague, and it's an arranged marriage. But I love this one because they're from rival families, but they actually kind of become like a friends to lover situation. Like, they're not mad that they're being set up, actually. Once they meet one another, they really like each other. It's only then that now their families start wanting to kind of go back on the deal and like are backstabbing each other. And now they're kind of caught in the middle where they were like looking forward to being married, and now their families are like fighting again. And so what do they do? So yeah, this is a really good one. And I would actually consider this one of the like foundational mafia series too, which again, that's why it's in the before 2020. And I just think it doesn't get talked about enough because, I mean, and when you think of Katie Robert, you probably don't think of her as writing mafia. You probably think of the Wicked Villains, or you think of her, the Bonkers romance collab she's been doing, or the Dark Olympus series. But her Mafia series was some of her OG stuff, and it was really, really good. So highly recommend that. Then we have Dark Mafia Prince by Annika Martin, which, yes, you will see this one pop up again as a royalty in the title. But this one was originally posted in, or dropped in 2013. So this is also some of the OG Mafia stuff. Some of the oldest series done that were Mafia specific. And this one is, I am even trying to remember. I actually loved, I got this one signed by Annika. And it was funny because when I got these signed, she accidentally signed my books to the wrong person. So she had to send me a set later on where she'd signed to the right person, which was embarrassing anyway. But yeah, this one, I believe they're rival families. I really can't remember this one, actually. I'm so sorry. It's been so long. Let me just read the back of this one to you guys. I know this one involves the, like, take the finger is what it's often called. But so this one is Alexio. Don't look at me like that, so trusting, like you think I'm not a monster, like I won't wrap your hair in my fist and bend you to my will, like I won't sacrifice you piece by piece to save my brother. I'm the most dangerous enemy you'll ever have because every time you look at me, you see somebody good, your friend who died, and when you look at me like that, I die again. And then there's Mira, and it says, I spent years making myself invisible, a good girl, apart from the noise. Then you came back, beautiful and deadly in your Armani suit. Don't look at me like you still know me, you say. But I remember your smile on those long sunny days before they lowered your small casket to the ground, before they told us the prince was dead. That's right. The Dark Mafia prince is back to reclaim everything. Yes, I think it was his family got attacked, and it was believed that like all of them died. And it was maybe her family who betrayed his, I think. It's been so long. The point is this one's from 2013. It'll also work for royalty in the title. I think there's audiobooks for this series. There might not be. I don't know. It's so old. But these are definitely like the third or fourth covers that have come out, and I really liked these ones. But yeah, Annika Martin, this one definitely works for that, and I will be bringing that back up in a second. And then what is considered probably like the first Mafia, or some of the very, very first dark romance, is of course from Kitty Thomas. This one also came out in 2013. And this one is not as romantic as some might be. I say that. I read this one. This was gifted to me. A signed copy was gifted to me from one of my dear followers and friends, because they wanted me to read some more Kitty Thomas, of which I've read a few. She writes a very dark romance, and a lot of dark romance authors will actually list her as their like inspiration. This was a captive situation, obviously from the title, and it happens when we have a heroine who witnesses something she shouldn't witness, and instead of killing her, the man who killed the guy in front of her, gifts her to his brother. And her brother is really into, the brother is really into BDSM, but it isn't something he's been able to like live out. And so his brother, instead of killing her, gifts her to him. And he's like, well, I'm not really into unwilling situations. Like, he doesn't want it to be a captive, but the brother's like, well, if you don't want to make use of her, then we have to kill her. So get over your compunctions of not wanting to force someone. So it's just crazy. This isn't a comfortable book. This isn't one a lot of people love, but what I think is fascinating about it is how once you really dive into this, you can see the beginnings of so much of the dark romances people love today. It's just that Kitty Thomas didn't wrap it all up in flowery language or try to make excuses for it. Like, the characters are not all good. And like, what becomes a HEA in this isn't one we conventionally see or are used to. And I think that is fascinating. So again, that one won't work for everyone. I totally understand. I don't even know fully how I feel about it. But again, I like the readathon to stretch people in different ways. Okay, we're halfway done with the list. Thankfully, there's a few repeats on the second side, so it maybe won't take us as long. But I told you this would be a mega one. All right. Next, we have one of my other prompts I love, which is the less than 1,000 ratings. I was very excited about this because a few of the books that I had on this list last year for less than 1,000 actually have more than that now, which makes me so happy because obviously I'm not cocky enough to think that my influence is enough to like change something like that. But it gets me a little excited because I'm like, well, what if people were reading that author because of this readathon and leaving reviews behind, which makes me really happy to think about, even if it's just in my own self. So yes, less than 1,000 ratings. I am so happy to show some of these ones again here. So we have The Ecstasy of Sin by Kay Allister. And I talk about this book all the time, so I won't even go into it, but This one has less than 1,000 ratings. Kay Allister is a friend of the channel. I love it. This one's getting close. I think of the ones I listed, this one has like the most ratings, so that's cool. But yeah, this one is The Brutal Brotherhood, and I believe this one doesn't have a specific mafia listed either. Maybe it does. I can't fully remember. I think one of the guys actually has ties to one. But anyway, this one also has the chronic migraines in it. So this one works for disability or neurodivergence. It has, what other ones might this one? I mean, probably a new to you author if you haven't read her before. But yeah, this one is Dominic and Ren. And we also have a heroine who is unhoused in the beginning and just really, really struggling. And our hero becomes like a stalker for her. And then he becomes obsessed with her and eventually kind of sort of kidnaps her. I don't think this one would fully count as a captor captive. But let's just say he makes her prison so appealing, she doesn't want to leave. Okay, also, Two Birds, One Stone by Stevie Sparks. This is one that doesn't get mentioned a lot, but yeah, this one only has 615 ratings. And this one is a part of her Dark Billionaires. And this is another one that I don't know if the mafia part is actually listed. But there's definitely a organized crime involved in this one. And I actually got to beta read a copy of this book. So I never fully shared all of my thoughts on it. But this one has arranged marriage. It has a hitman turned bodyguard. So we have assassin hero as well. And it is also an MMF. Okay. So this one gets brought up. I will talk about it in the LGBTQ one as well as a rec. But yeah, this one is a marriage of convenience, or a forced marriage almost even. And then it ends up becoming an MMF when they all kind of fall for one another. So yeah, this one does not have very many ratings for it. And I thought it was a really fun one actually. And it involves Aldios, it's hard to say his name, chooses this to keep things safe, to keep his family safe. And Brianna is the one he's kind of pushed to marry. And Brianna's happy to be out from underneath her mother's control, but she also, isn't that interested in her husband. But then Roman is her bodyguard, and he's supposed to protect her. And then they all kind of start to have feelings for one another. And yeah, that's what I'll say about it. I thought this one was interesting how they all fell for one another. And yeah, definitely one that I don't see people talk about Stevie Sparks for her dark romance much. Okay, next up is The Sight of You by Ashley Mack. And this one only has 160 ratings. So this is actually the first in a whole series that Ashley did. And side note, Ashley is a friend of mine. She has a Bookstagram and a TikTok. And we got close during 2022, 2023. And so I actually read early copies of a lot of these ones. Not the first one though. The first one though, I read it once it was out. And then I was sent early copies of her books from her. She hasn't written anything in a while now, which is sad, but I know she got really busy with work. And, when writing is your passion project, but it's not actually making you money, which I completely understand, she had to make decisions about what work has to get done, right? But yeah, this one is another kind of organized crime without a name. And we have Alina, who actually have a one-night stand with assumed names. And Alina is actually a protector of her family. And her older sister is actually the one who's going to be having an arranged marriage with a rival family. And again, it's more indistinct organized crime. They're actually kind of it's dark billionaires as well, but it's also clear that the criminal element is involved. So again, fits into the vague organized crime situation. But when Derek shows up to meet his wife, Alina is there as the like bodyguard of her sister. And he demands that the marriage is not going to go through unless he can have Alina. And so now Alina is forced into the spotlight and gets married off to him. So yeah, this one works as an arranged marriage. And as, you know, yeah, has less than 1,000 ratings. Probably a new to you author if you've never read her before. So wanted to point that one out. Okay, then there is It Was Always You by Shannon Jade. And I can't believe this one only has 138 ratings. That's crazy. This one is actually a Friends to Lovers, and it's the 4 Points Mafia, which I believe is Irish. I believe the 4 Points is Irish. They are also mentioned in like the Filthy Feckers, I think, are part of 4 Points. So I believe that's the well-known Irish Mafia. And then, yeah, Owen and Cora are their names. And so this one, they're friends when they're young. And it's a slow burn, kind of like Friends to Lovers situation. It also is interesting to me because it kind of had like new adult vibes, and there aren't a lot of Mafia that really fit into that. You know, like Rena Kent's can be considered new adult, like her Legacy of the God series. There's also a series from, what's her name? E.L. Khan, is that her name? The one, the Tragic Empire, like those ones, some of those almost feel new adult too. At least the first one does, because it's a Mafia school that it is. So it's definitely nice as kind of a less intense type of Mafia, if that's something you want to try. And yeah, Shannon Jade, there's now I think 4 books in this series, but I only read this one, but all the books in the series have less than 1,000 ratings. Now again, obviously you can only read one book for that prompt, but I mean, this one will hit Irish Mafia, it will hit, you know, a new to you author and things like that. Okay, and then the last one is one of the repeats, Brutal Vows, the one I read. This one has less than 1,000 ratings. Okay, then we have royalty in the title. We love that. I mean, I do. I love royalty in the title ones. So the first one I want to mention is His Empress by Amelia Rossi. And I said this, I think, in my announcement video. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I'm not sure. But I was actually inspired to do this prompt because of this book. Because I was like, ooh, I love that His Empress could be one, right? So it's not just king, queen, prince, or princess, but His Empress. I know there is also, I didn't put this one on my list, but there's a whole series, I think, by Jagger Cole that has Emperor in the title. So those ones would work. I also think those are Yakuza, so, you know, Mafia of any kind in those ones. But yeah, His Empress is the most recent release from Amelia Rossi, and it involves a, like, hidden identities and a one-night stand. That one is also Italian and Bratva, and then it's an accidental pregnancy. And so then once they find out who each other are, Dimitri is, like, taken aback, and he thinks it was all a trick. Like, for some reason, she'd try to get pregnant, which is just nuts, but, you know, he's a bit paranoid there. Okay, then I wanted to put Blood King on, which I actually haven't read yet, but this is the second one in Natalie Kane's series. So my point with this one is that it's the Kings of Vegas, and all of them have kings. So the first one I talked about was, what was the first one I read? Sinful King. This one is Blood King, and next she has Vicious King coming out. And yeah, I was sent this from her, and I really want to read this one. Look, she even sent me some nice booty on there. Love it. So I might try to listen to this one, but no, my TBR is filled up. But I do want to get to this one soon. I love getting this beautiful copy of this one. And this one, let's see, this one's an arranged marriage, age gap, ex's dad. That's right. So yeah, this is Bratva and then unnamed as well, because the Mafia Kings are of any kind. So there we go. Love that one. Throwing it up there again, there is Dark Mafia Prince. It has Prince. That whole series has Prince in the title. So those ones also all work. Jagger Cole has one with King in the title. I was trying to find one with Princess in the title that I could show, but a lot of them are King, or prince are shown. But the Astoria Royals by Deborah Garland, we have Savage King starts off the series. And so this one is Kieran O'Rourke. So this one's Irish. And this one has a big age gap. It has an alpha mafia husband and a virgin mafia princess. So yeah, Savage King is book 1 here. And this one is... This was my first Deborah Garland. Oh, that's so fun. Irish Mafia King, arranged marriage. Yeah, so this was Isabella. So maybe that's Italian. And Irish is what this one is. And then, yeah. I don't have more written about this one. So, Savage King there. Then we have Milla Kane here. We have King of the Cage. Oh my goodness, for some reason, the German one got brought up. But this is, I believe, Italian and Irish as well. And this one has, she's like a black cat and he's like feral golden retriever. And this is one where he gets her to be his fake girlfriend for a minute. And then that actually stirs up a lot of trouble. And then it ends up being like a forced marriage. She kind of pushes her into getting married to him. But she's a hacker and he is a like street fighter. They both end up trying to infiltrate a secret society that has been like kidnapping and drugging and killing people. So that's what King of the Cage has happening in it. And then the final one of that is... Oh, I think I listed them all. Yep. So yeah, lots of king ones, prince, but his empress definitely works. Okay, then we have LGBTQAI plus for this. So, Hunt the Villain is the most recent release from Rena Kent. Of course, she has other MM romance as well that you can include. Wow, why did that just go out of my head? Fury. What is it? King of Fury. Yeah, Lord of Fury. It's King of Fury. That one has a bisexual hero and a gay hero. Bran and Nico, love that one. And then Hunt the Villain. I think Nico is actually the cousin of one of the guys in here. But this is Russian Bratva, Enemies to Lovers, Forbidden Romance, MM Romance. Love this one. The audiobook is fantastic for that. They're Mafia family, but they're also rival Mafia families too. So it does work for that. They're rivals within the Bratva, and they have this like long-term egging of each other on. Really love that one. Two Birds with One Stone, again, as I mentioned, and Call the Coroner are also in this one. So that one we have a poly throuple, and then Call the Coroner is MM. Then there is Mafia Target by Mila Finelli. This one also has an assassin. This one is the Cosa Nostra are the kings of Italy. Well, no, this one says it's just Italian, but I thought they were Cosa Nostra because they're based in Sicily, but I can't remember. And then, yeah, Alessio was sent to kill Julio, and he ends up falling in love with him. So yeah, love this one. And yes, you can jump into this one if you want to. Though, you know, maybe you'll want to take on this whole series. I don't know, because Mafia Mistress is the recommendation from Jess. So technically you can make this whole series your plan, and it would hit a lot of the prompts going on. So yeah, love the Mafia Target. Then I wanted to mention a fan fiction as well. I eventually hope I'll have enough to do like a whole fan fiction Mafia rec video someday. But for this one, I wanted to recommend a Holinov fiction that was a Mafia AU. Okay, so a Shane and Ilya one where Ilya is a Bratva prince. Okay. So this one is called Mine All Mine by Peace Lilies. So I'll have a link to this where you can get it on AO3 and you can read it. But in this one, Shane is actually a teacher, and he goes out for drinks with his friends, and he ends up catching the eye of Ilya Rozanov, who I think it might be his club, his family's club that he meets him at, but they end up hooking up, and Shane has no idea that he's a part of the mafia until it's too late and he's already in love with him. So I wanted to include that one. Okay, and then the final category that I am putting Rex up for is disability or neurodivergent recommendations. So, of course, we have to have His Tesoro by Amelia Rossi, and this is actually the rec from Kyan, I believe, recommended this one. So this also will count, if you haven't read it before, as a 5-pointer as a host rec. And then the heroine has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where her joints are very weak and everything. And this is also Bratva and Italian, and an arranged marriage, rival family. Like, this one hits so many. So if you haven't read His Tesoro yet, this Mafia readathon is the one for you, okay? And if you end up continuing on with the story, you'll hit even more prompts with his Juliet and with his Empress. So this one is Sophia and Matteo, and he plans to just marry her and kind of put her to the side, keep her as his wife, but have nothing more to do with her. And then he can't help but absolutely fall head over heels for her. And now he just wants to give her the whole entire world. So love, 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 love this one. Okay, then classic Painted Scars by Neva Altai. Again, pretty much anything in this series will count. And so that's great because a lot of her books hit many different ones. And you'll hear some of the other hosts say too, she's a great one if you haven't started her yet to binge a couple of the books in the series, because you will basically get a bingo after reading like 2 of these books because they hit so many. The series have so many different mafias involved. So she just hits a ton. But this one particularly that starts it all off is Nina and Roman. And Roman in the beginning actually there's like a car bomb basically, and he ends up in a wheelchair. And then Nina ends up in kind of a forced marriage with him. Or it's supposed to be kind of faked, but he ends up falling head over heels for her and wants to make it real. Doesn't go about that in the perfect way, but there you go. So yeah, Painted Scars, he's in a wheelchair or uses a cane for good portions of this book. And doesn't know if he will be healed all the way or not, you know? Then there is Lev by Belle Aurora, and this is an absolute throwback book for sure. This one I think also works for out before 2020. Yes, this one came out in 2015, so this would also work for that. And I'm not sure which mafia this one is connected with, but Lev is like the money guy, and he definitely is on the spectrum, very clearly written that way, and so the way he thinks about things are very diplomatic. And so we have Mina, who actually tries to steal his wallet because she's desperate, she's unhoused, she's unsafe, and so she gets caught trying to steal his wallet, and instead of killing her, he offers her an ultimatum. There's just something that he sees in her, and he wants to help her. He can't explain it. So he offers her a job at the club, and of course she wants that rather than being thrown in jail. And so it might be Bratva because the family is called the Leokov, so they might be Bratva is what this one is. But this is a classic one. It's so good. This is actually an author we're still hoping she'll keep writing in the series. She did put out the second book a few years after, but then the next book in the series just never got written. But Lev, you can absolutely read it as a standalone, and it's a great one for hitting a lot of prompts with that one. Okay, then of course we have our classic Twisted Emotions. This one, it's unknown exactly what Nino has, but he's called a genius and a monster, and it very much, he's written like he is a almost like a sociopath or neurodivergent. It's really hard to tell because it's not like diagnosed in this book or anything, but you can definitely feel it in the story. And this one originally came out in 2021. Oh, okay, so this one doesn't work for being older than that, but the earlier books by Cora Riley do count. But this one is an arranged marriage between Nino and Chiara. And this one is the capo. He's the right-hand man of the capo of the Camorra. And Chiara's family is the New York Familia. Yeah, this one will work for Italian mafia. But yeah, she gets married to a man incapable of emotion. And she's actually has PTSD as well. So it would work for that. And then, yeah, it's an arranged marriage between the two of them. And I love how this one plays out. Like, this is one of my favorite mafias of all time. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Twisted Emotions and Twisted Pride definitely are. So just wanted to share that one. And then the very final one, this one, I have it under chronic illness rep. I used to think this one was endometriosis, but someone else wrote that it is something else, but our heroine suffers from like fibroids and growths on her feminine parts, and she also has chronic pain because of those. But this is the first one in the When Heroes Fall duet. What is this series called? I just forgot, but it's When Heroes Fall, When Villains Rise. And it is such a good mafia one for me. This is Dante and Elena is a lawyer, and Dante has been charged with some pretty serious crimes, and Elena gets assigned to work his case, and she actually, to help keep things on track, gets moved into his penthouse to live with him, and so now it's a forced proximity and everything. So yeah, I believe this one is Italian mafia too. But yeah, definitely love this series for sure. So there you go. Those are a little less than 40 because, like I said, some of those were doubled up, but there is plenty of recommendations. Of course, any of these that you read from, that you may read, also the first one that you read would count as a rec from a host on the main bingo board. Pretty much anything, that's an easy one to check off because pretty much any books you're going to read, one of us has recommended them. But yeah, if you read any of these ones, the first time you read it, it will count for a rec from a host. So anyway, there you go. Those are all my recommendations for this. I'm going to wrap this video up because it's plenty long, but please make sure you like this video, hype this video if you think to do it. Leave a comment about if you have any more recs for any of the prompts. Would love to hear it. And again, I will link the assassin video and a single parent video, and that will cover all 10 of the prompts. So hope that you find some great ones to read, and I hope you'll participate in the Mafia Readathon. But if not, I hope I've given you some great, oddly specific recs for Mafia. So thank you so much for watching, my friends, and we'll see you next time. Bye.